All right, here we go. So, this is a brand new week. So, with the new week, we have a new form for quadratics, right? So, last week we talked about the vertex form, right? And obviously, the vertex form showed us the vertex. What we're looking at today is called the intercept form, okay? So, obviously, it's going to show us intercepts. So, what intercept form is in general is just another way that we write quadratics, right? Remember, quadratic, it's still going to give us this parabola shape, and it's just going to tell us a few different things. So I think this one's actually a little easier than last week, but we'll see. So the general equation is y equals a, right? A is still in front, just like last week. So a parentheses x minus p, close parentheses, parentheses x minus q. Okay, it's a weird looking q, but it's all right, q. So I have y equals a parentheses x minus p parentheses x minus q. Okay, so just like last week, I'm going to explain what all those letters mean and then how we can use them. So to start with, the a, it's just like it was in vertex form. Okay, the a tells us if the parabola, remember the parabola is the shape of the quadratic. If the parabola opens up or down, okay? And I'll explain why, okay? So the A tells us whether the parabola opens up or the parabola opens down. It's exactly the same as it was in vertex form, okay? And these last two, so again, so it's called intercept form, right? So the P tells me what one of the x-intercept is. So x-intercept. Okay, P is one of them. Okay, you can guess what Q is the another x-intercept. Okay, so I mean most quadratics I have two x-intercepts, right? So P's here, Q's there. Okay, let's keep going. So first thing we got to do, whenever we see an equation in intercept form, the first thing you should do is label. So I'm going to label my A, I'm going to label my P, and I'm going to label my Q. Oh, no, wrong color. My bad. My Q. Okay. So watch how I'm going to do this, because this is a little tricky. So A, that's the easy one. A is whatever's in front, right? That number in front, just like vertex form. So here, my A is 2, right? That one is easy. You can't mess that one up, okay? This is where it gets a little tricky. So if we see in the general equation, right, I have x minus p, okay? So you might think that p is -3, but it's not. It's the opposite sign of what's in here. So if I have x minus 3, p is going to be +3, okay? And the same thing applies here. So if I have x plus 1, the opposite sign of +1 is -1, -1, okay? So my A is 2, my P is 3, my Q is -1, okay? So remember, the A is whatever's in front. That one's easy. P and Q are the opposite signs of what's in here. So if in here I had -3, it's +3. In here I had +1, down here it's -1, okay? That's about it. And now the way it opens, okay? So these are the rules. This is the rule. So if A is positive, okay, that means my parabola opens up. Some of y'all probably guessed that because it's the exact same thing as from vertex form, okay? So if the A is positive, it opens up. That's simple. Okay. Now let's keep going. So my intercepts. So how I'm going to write them down is like this. So I'm going to have two parentheses. So I'm going to have parentheses P, comma 0. That's one x-intercept. And then other one is going to be Q, comma 0. Okay. So my first intercept, I'm going to take my first x-intercept, I'm going to take my p value and put it for the x value, okay? So my first x-intercept is going to be 3, comma, 0. Okay? That's my first x-intercept. We're done. We got that. Okay? The next intercept, so we're going to write and, it's going to be q comma 0. So instead of q, I'm going to substitute it with my q. So -1. So I'm going to write -1 comma 0. Just like that. And those are my two x-intercepts. Those are the two spots where my parabola crosses the x-axis. Okay? It's that easy. Now for the axis of symmetry. We can still find the axis of symmetry just given these three things. Okay? This is what we do. We plug them into this kind of formula. So x equals p plus q, that's a q, divided by 2. Okay? P plus q divided by 2. So let me show you how that works. So for this example, right, we start with x equals, because axis of symmetry always starts with x equals. And now instead of p, I'm going to substitute it with my p. So x equals 3 plus my q, so -1. So I'm going to write that in parentheses, over 2. Okay? So there's two things we could do. We could either put this in the calculator, or we can add the first row and then divide it by 2. Since I don't know if y'all have calculators, I know I don't, I'm just going to do it by hand, okay? So I'm going to rewrite it. I get x equals, what is 3 plus -1? Okay, that you can just use your phone calculator. 3 plus -1 is like 3 minus 1. So I get 2, and then I still have the fraction bar, over 2, okay? And then you're left with this. You got to simplify this, right? 2 over 2, that's just 2 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1, okay? I hope that wasn't too much. That wasn't too many steps, okay? If you want to use a calculator, you can just type this in, but it's not that much math, okay? So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. And that's it. This whole one, this is done. We found a bunch of parts, okay? Now let's go look at, oh, we can't even see that, my bad. X equals 1. Okay, so now let's go to the second example. So y equals -3 times x plus 1 times x minus 5. Okay, so same thing. Let's start by labeling our A, our P, and our Q. Okay, so A, easy, whatever's in front, right? So boom, -3. I just write that as is. Now P, I look in my first parentheses, right? I have x plus 4. So you might want to write a 4 here, but it's the opposite sign of this. So since this is a positive 4, P is going to be -4, okay? Same thing with Q. You might want to put -5, but it's the opposite sign. So I'm going to put a positive 5, just like that, okay? Do not get tripped up on that. Now we go here. So opens. So in this first example, we saw if A is positive, it opens down, right? So you can kind of guess what this rule is. If A is negative, obviously the parabola opens down, right? And those are the two rules. That's it. If A is positive, the parabola opens up. So it's a right side up U. It's like this. Can y'all see that? It's like that. Okay? If A is negative, it opens down. So it's an upside down U. So this one kind of looks like this. This one will kind of look like this. Okay, just like that. Now let's go to intercepts. So remember, my first intercept is P comma 0. So I look at my P value, it's -4. So my first x-intercept is going to be -4 comma 0. Okay, there's one down. So I write and now I'm going to write my second one. So my second x-intercept is Q comma 0. So I go up here and I find that my Q value is 5. So all we do is write 5 comma 0. Done. Just like that. I have my two x-intercepts. Okay, it's that easy. But you have to make sure you get these right, or else your answers are going to be wrong down here. Okay. And finally, axis of symmetry. So this is the kind of tricky one, I guess. So we write it out. So x equals, and I know on the top, on my numerator, it's p plus q. So I'm going to put p, so -4, plus q, which is 5. And then all of that over 2, okay? Then we work down. So I get x equals, now add the top row. So what is -4 plus 5, okay? You can put that in your calculator on your phone if you need to. -4 plus 5 gives me +1, and I still have this fraction bar over 2, okay? Now, I cannot reduce 1/2, right? So my axis of symmetry is just x equals 1/2, okay? And that's perfectly fine. That's a good answer. We're done, okay? This one had even one less step than this one, okay? So that's it. I found whether it opens up or down. I found the x-intercepts, and I found the axis of symmetry, okay? Now let's try one more. Now this one looks a little different. You can already tell, okay? But we can just do it the exact same way. So I'm going to have an A, I'm going to have a P, and I'm going to have a Q, just like that, all right? So A, all I see in front is this negative sign, right? But we've seen it over and over again. If I have a negative sign right there, there's an imaginary 1. Okay, there's an imaginary 1 right there, which means my A is -1. Okay, you have to remember that. Now I have this right here. So it says x plus 6 squared. Okay. What squared means, hopefully y'all know, remember that means I have x plus 6 twice, okay? So if I want to rewrite this, which I'm going to do right here, I can rewrite this whole equation as y equals -1, right, because it's imaginary, parentheses, x plus 6, there's one of them, but it's squared, so I need to have another x plus 6, just like that, okay? These two equations are the exact same thing. Okay, but this one looks like it's what we've been working with, right? This one's in the proper like intercept form, okay? So we can work with this top one. So if I work with this top one, right, my A is still -1. My P, remember, it's not 6, it's the opposite sign of this. So instead of 6, it is a -6, okay? Q, same thing. It's not +6, it is a -6, okay? And that's fine, that'll happen, okay? So let's keep going. So now we want to see which way it opens. So is A positive or is A negative? Well, A is -1, so it's obviously negative, which means this one opens down. Okay, it's going to look like that. All right, and that's it. Easy. Intercepts. So this is where it's a little weird. So my first x-intercept is P, 0. So my P is -6, 0. Okay, easy. No trick so far, right? So there's one. All right, and now I'm gonna write my second one. So I have Q, 0. So again, -6, 0. Okay. So if we think about this, right? I have an x-intercept on the exact same spot. Okay. That means I only have one x-intercept, okay? So if I only have one x-intercept, I can just cross this one out. I don't need to write both, okay? You already have your x-intercept, -6, 0. You don't have to write it twice. That makes no sense, okay? So here, in this example, I only have one x-intercept, okay? And we'll see on a graph later what that looks like, okay? So these, I have two x-intercepts. Here, I only have one. Okay, and that's perfectly fine. That'll happen. Axis of symmetry, we can still do that. That's fine. So axis of symmetry, let's set it up. So I got x equals P plus Q. So -6 plus -6 over 2. Okay, now don't just rush and put a 0 on there, okay, because it's not 0. But I know it looks like it. So let's work it out. So on the top row, -6 plus -6, okay? So we're starting at -6 and we're adding -6 more. So we're going backwards. So again, you can use your phone calculator if you need to, but negative 6 plus negative 6 would give me negative 12 over 2, okay? And then again, you could use your phone calculator here if you want. Negative 12 over 2, to reduce it, will give me x equals negative 6, okay? So that's my axis of symmetry. That's that invisible line that divides my graph in half, which y'all can see up here, okay? So the axis of symmetry here is negative 6. And that's it. We're good. That's intercept form. That's kind of the main stuff about it, okay? So what I want y'all to do today is just like normal when we take video notes. I'm going to put the blank copy in your notes with the finished copy. So if you want to copy it down, you can. If you want to print this one out, you can. Whatever you want to do, okay? So your only assignment today is watch this video, kind of learn about intercept form, and then the next day, on Wednesday, you're going to have an assignment on this, okay? So if you have any questions about this, about the video, just let me know, email me, and I'll help you out, okay? Y'all have a good day.